Welcome at the Hydrogen Fuel Cells Europe here at the Hannovermesse 2022. We are already on first day, so this means the last day of the week, also the last afternoon. So please join us for the upcoming interview or panel discussion that we're having. Have a seat, have some refreshment, and relax. I'm really excited about the next talk. We will discuss the topic of the scenario calculator tool for hydrogen valleys. Please welcome on stage the Managing Director of Spilett, Nadine Hoelzinger, and the General Manager of the Toyota Mobility Foundation, Fuchs. Very warm welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Let's start with an easy question. Two companies or a foundation and a company. What is Spilett doing, Nadine?
Spilett is a consultancy company from Berlin, and we were focusing on energy transition and hydrogen economy since 2007. So we are helping and supporting industry, regions, and other stakeholders to develop concepts, strategies, and solutions.
Great. And the Toyota Mobility Foundation, Andy?
Well, when you carry the name Toyota, you normally don't have to introduce yourself, but many might not know Mobility Foundation, what's that? We are founded in 2014, and we have the aim to have a sustainable society. So we are not contributing at all to our group where we receive the funding from. We are looking really into societal issues, and one of the big issues these days is energy, and then it links also to our core business, obviously mobility, where we come from, therefore we carry the name, and jointly with partners we develop projects and try to implement change already.
That sounds great. And now today we're going to talk about one of those projects that the two of you developed or worked on, a scenario calculator tool for hydrogen valleys. Maybe what was the starting point, Nadine?
Yeah. So the starting point for this project was several years ago. We were supporting a region called Steinfurt in North Rhine-Westphalia. And together with them, we developed a vision for a hydrogen economy, for a local hydrogen economy based on renewable energies. And the stakeholders in these regions were very motivated to go into the hydrogen topic. But they said, well, in the end, we don't know what to do next. So how to start next Monday with the energy transition towards a hydrogen economy. And then they said, okay, so we need to better understand what infrastructure to build up, what are costs, what are capacities, how to interact or how to connect the system modules with each other. And so they were kind of lost and said, in the end, we need to pay somebody in order to do a study, in order to identify the optimum system. And then the next day after the study is ready, all the assumptions will change, all the system boundary will change because the energy transition is ongoing. And so they need to reinvest again in studies, and they wanted to stop that and said, okay, we need a calculator tool in order to be more flexible in understanding how to go forward and what to do and what impacts it might have on our economy.
Okay, and then the Toyota Mobility Foundation came into play.
Well, what we see, it's sometimes very difficult to get funding because subsidies work that you can purchase a vehicle, electrolyzer, whatever, and you get funding. But when you try to come up with new concepts and something that is not necessarily proven and is, well, a white sheet of paper, let's do it, how can they get funding? And this is why we are there, because we're looking at these initiatives because we want to create real impact, getting out of the laboratories and trial it. And this is a similar thing. So when Nadine approached us with this concept and we had the first meeting with the people of Steinfurt, we saw a real big opportunity and a void because there's nothing there. We're having a fossil-based economy, and if we're trying to transition now to a defossilized system, how to do it? Where the risks, the opportunities, and this is where we said, yeah, that's a great project, and if no one is there to finance it, we're happy to do so.
Nadine, you already mentioned a bit about the project. What is exactly the goal of the project?
So the goal is to to offer to interested regions a tool, an online tool that identified based on the individual regional parameters that they need to configure to identify the cost-optimized infrastructure system that is able to supply the demand for hydrogen on an hourly basis throughout the year. So it's kind of, it has to do with energy security and with cost optimization, and based on the regional framework conditions, on the assumptions, also on the political assumptions, so they can decide if they want to allow imports and exports. They can set an upper carbon limit. They can just identify resources they want to use or not to use. They get information on how much water they need in order to do the electrolysis. So all these different information they get along with the identified optimized system, so system performance and the system setup. And then in addition to that, and this was also one of the major motivation factors of Steinfurt, was that they said, okay, in the end, when we are going to invest into this project or into these capacities, we will have to operate the system for 15 years. And while we are operating the system boundaries can change and are likely to change. So they wanted to know, okay, what is the risk when having a system installed during the lifetime of the system. So what we are doing is the system is also, after being identified, the optimized system, you can change with the existing system boundaries, and then you can see, okay, how much does this affect operational key performance indicators.
So it's really beneficial because it's dynamic, because that's why it's a tool, a calculator, not just a study. You also mentioned you can do several scenarios at the same time to see what's the best fit for the region, for example. And also it's open source, right? So it works for everyone, so it's really easily adaptable. Still, however, maybe a bit abstract, can you give some use cases that you did during the project?
Yeah, so in the prototype we implemented the system for Steinfurt. So we just built with the framework and the parameters of Steinfurt, we built the system in order to give them this tool that they were looking for. And now we have, the last year or the last 1.5 years, we have developed it further. Now it's an online tool, an online software tool to be used by several regions in parallel. So it's kind of, they can use it and only in their like a confidential area, so they don't need to share or publish anything. And what we're doing at the moment is that we are in a project funded by the European government called High Starter in the Highland program, and all 15 High Starter regions are applying this tool in order to identify the ideal strategy for 2030.
Sounds really exciting. Also now with 15 regions working on it, I guess you get much more information for the future. I quickly would like to open up to the audience. Are there any questions? If not, you can ask questions anytime. Just raise your hand and I'm going to come to you. Also, if you're still standing, have a seat and enjoy the ongoing conversation. Okay, so back to you. Where do you stand at the moment with the project?
So at the moment, we are at the end of the project. So the tool has been developed. We are now in a final phase. Because we noticed that there are some regions who have difficulties in identifying all the parameters, like the energy system of the region. So they don't know, for example, how much gigawatt potential they have, for example, for PV or for windmills, and how much demand they have in different sectors. So what we're doing is we are implementing a beginner mode. So each region can, based on the number of inhabitants, on the land surface, and on other key parameters they know, they can calculate like a basic parameterizing of their region.
So you said you're at the end of the project. What was the time frame and what were the steps along the project? How did you, what was the design of the project?
Yeah. So we started with the region of Steinfurt. So we had, in the beginning, we had some preparatory work in order to get all the data from there. But in the end, we had a year of prototyping and a year of now developing the software, the online software.
And you mentioned that now there are already 15 regions using the tool. What are the next steps of the platform? Where are you heading?
maybe let me add from our perspective, as this is an open source tool, this was very mandatory for us. We don't want to have any proprietary resources. We want to really share this. Because the challenges we are facing are not only in Germany. We have that all over Europe, but also globally. So recently we had a study trip from the colleagues from the MIT that had a look how this tool even can help in the US regions to decarbonize. So for us, while we started here in Germany, this is the step number one, and we're looking now into possibilities to host it on a server to make it accessible for those regions receiving already funding here by the NOW or by the FCHJU, but then looking also on a bigger scale, how can we really make this tool accessible for many to create impact, because we need impact. And I think if you go across here, the technology is there. But what the problem is, what we see, it's putting the dots together. Because you have to convince the local politician, you have to convince the banking sector, you have to convince the citizens that what you try to do there makes sense. And we try to have this tool, therefore, as a connecting point to start the conversation. It's not a glass bowl that we say, oh, this will be the future. It shows scenarios for decision makers in moving ahead towards a sustainable and a decarbonized future where hydrogen, in our belief, plays a major role. And as what we see, it's currently absolutely spot on. And therefore, it's our offer also for other regions the moment we go live to work with the tool and to learn from those regions who have already inputted their data and to move on to the next step then.
It really seems to be a great solution for a complex problem, because climate change is so complex, hard to grasp. And we also see it here at the fair, so many different solutions. It's still kind of in the innovation phase in the beginning, fuzzy front end, many ideas, many directions. So a tool like the scenario calculator really helps to start a conversation. You've mentioned that as many as possible can use it. So who are your customers or users of the tool, because it's not profit?
Yeah, it's in the end it's regions like hydrogen or future hydrogen valleys who are interested in checking and identifying maybe a possible role for hydrogen in their regional energy transition. So the precondition is that a region wants to go into the energy transition. And that they are open-minded to ask maybe if and how hydrogen could play a role. And so the calculator is a decision support tool. It just shows the impacts of different scenarios, and so they can consider hydrogen being a part of their future energy system or not, and also decide in which sectors it may be more sensible than in others maybe.
Maybe let me add here, and to be very concrete, as Nadine said, it's regions. It could be a harbor, it could be in a newly developed industrial area. Because we've been approached already by some chambers of commerce that looked at this, because we have beautiful buildings everywhere, which offer tremendous opportunity for solar. Sometimes there is even a wind park close by. And they're looking in how to develop these kind of industrial areas, because energy will be the question of the future. And the more independent we can get and have these local, lighthouses, the less we have to import. And I think we see the challenges, and even if there's a great vision of pipelines and networks and whatever, it takes time. But time we don't have. And if we want to create impact right now, this is one tool where we empower regions, harbors, bigger industrial areas to already start. Because time is what we are up against too.
It's crucial. Time is crucial with this challenge we're facing. It's actually in the direction of my next question. How small can the region be? I think about maybe it's if a village is really committed, how much of a not society, but like group, because you have dependencies. Do you need to be that you can actually work with it, or it makes sense to work with the scenario calculator?
Yeah. So I think you shouldn't be too small. So if you're just one house or one or two houses, then it doesn't make sense. There are a lot of different scenario calculators, other ones, or investment calculators out there. So what's special about the scenario calculator that we developed is that it it reflects the interaction of different use cases. So it should be a use case that has heat demand from transport, maybe demand from industry. So the more complex the situation is, the better it is. But it can also be used, and we were also approached from production sites, industrial production sites, who are interested in Scope 1 and Scope 2 goals or aims, and who wanted to decarbonize their site and all the interactions due to their activities with the site.
Maybe let me add also, because as I carry the name mobility in it, and as Nadine already referred to, we need new partnerships. It's not only that we have to change the energy side, we have to change our transport systems. We have to, we don't change traffic jams when we just switch combustion engine with electric engines, be it fuel cell or battery electric. The traffic jams are still the same. So we have to come up with new solutions, and this is exactly what this tool is helping as well, to develop new business cases, because a utility, for example, running public transport can then decide at what stage they run, for example, the electrolyzer to produce the hydrogen, and run their public bus fleet that hopefully has then also a lower cost and makes it more attractive. So you see this interlink between the different sectors, be it industry, households, or mobility, and then with digital solutions all being displayed here, the technology is there, but putting it together, this is where we see this tool can really help to bring the message across for the decision makers also, to make it visible for them what is needed to be done.
Yeah, I mean, I envision that it's just a tool that is installed in every region, that is kind of, okay, we run through this tool every year once, just to double check and discuss the results, basically. That would be nice. Maybe one last question at the end of the project, looking back, the review, what were the biggest challenges in the project?
So there were challenges in modeling the energy system, because we had to reduce complexity. And we had to reduce it, and this was a very valuable feedback also from the region of Steinfurt, who just were our sparring partner in just really understanding, so on what level decision makers need information. So it doesn't have to be too complex, because they would not use it, and it doesn't have to be too general in order to give a realistic output. So, and what was very challenging in the beginning was defining the questions that need to be answered and defining the right level of complexity. And then now, during the course of implementation also of the scenario calculator, we also found out that for many regions, it's a challenge to get the data. So we thought that most of the regions know about their energy flows, consumption, potential, and so on, but it's not the case. So many of them are still like blind. And so this is why we now started the beginner mode, in order to just give a hand to people who just have no clue yet about their energy consumption or energy economy, in order to just start and also use the calculator based on general assumptions like statistical average consumptions.
Great. So thank you so much for being here. Unfortunately, looking at the time, we have to stop. But I think it's a great initiative. Thanks for bringing it to the world and helping the hydrogen community to probably or hopefully have better decision making in the future. Andy, Nadine, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you want to talk further with them about the scenario calculator, please do it right after they step down from the stage. They don't have a booth here, so use the chance and talk to them further. Thank you very much.